So with that, we're going to skip introductions due to time. And I'm going to just start throwing out the first questions, and I'm going to just ask any of our panelists to jump in as they see fit. Okay, so we've been talking about a lot of disruption, how it's a disruption, the history of it. So the question is, looking at the history of technology disruption, what patterns from past waves, the client-server, cloud, mobile transitions, are repeating with AI today, and what should be leaders watching for this time around? Anyone wants to jump on that? Go for it.
Yeah, sure, Mike. I, as you know, I have some thoughts about this. I think that what we have seen, largely speaking, especially from a leadership perspective, is that past waves have all had, roughly the same pattern. Right, like time does not necessarily repeat itself, history doesn't repeat itself, right? But it certainly echoes. And it is that, typically speaking, we see that leadership teams overestimate short-term savings. They underestimate the cost of organizational change and organizational change management, which has a transformational component, and that they discover far too late. And I think in a lot of failure cases throughout, like, the tech history, dating as far back as, right, like the dot-com boom, that they have hollowed out their organization in chasing a tool instead of a transformational operating model.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Peter, to you, anything on that question?
For sure. I would say that AI is just starting with experimentation, just like sort of every other technology wave that we've had in our past with the internet, the cloud. And so AI is going to be no different in that regard. We're going to see that there's going to be platform adoption, consolidations that are going to occur, governance challenges that are going to occur that eventually then lead into business transformations. The difference now with AI is that it's really helping us be better at making decisions and creating more optimized business workflows, and helping us be more efficient. But it shouldn't just be, the focus shouldn't just be on the tools. It should be focused on how we can actually use this as an operating model, and make this a long-term advantage. But as Ian pointed out, I think there's certainly an adoption challenge, but one of the things that we're realizing with all of our clients is training and education. A lot of people don't even have the wherewithal of understanding what is supervised learning versus unsupervised learning. What is a large language model versus a small language model? What is prompt engineering versus context engineering versus harness engineering, right? So we teach these things at the onset of our engagements, and then sort of take them on a journey of a crawl, walk, run approach, and get them to a mature standpoint that they can actually be bought into.
Yeah, fantastic. Those are great points. Mohammed, I do want to give you a chance to respond before we go to the next question.
I agree with what the team said here. The other thing I kind of like sometimes think about it is when you focus too much on AI, you start losing focus of, like, you're fixated on the tool. I try to tell them, just look at it as like PowerPoint, or I know it's not the same, but just look at it as another tool that your employees are going to use. It is not going to replace your process. It's not going to replace your people. It might help speed things up. It might help, but it's a tool. It's not a replacement of what should be there, which is, again, the processes and the people sides.
Yep, and that's a perfect segue to the next question, honestly. And it's one of the major themes of this topic, right? So we're, as leaders, trying to find that balance between the humans, these tools. We have a lot of intelligence there, but as humans, we have also intuition and other values that we can add there that you're just not going to from pure intelligence alone. When that based on pattern matching and text generation. However, the way that people approach that is get the human in the loop. It's what's one of the most overused phrases that I've heard over the past 2 years, and to the point of nausea. And I know a lot of other leaders in the space feel the same way, but it's really important. So the question really is, since it has become so exhausted, folks' experience, what does the meaningful involvement of humans look like in production AI systems? So not the experimentation, but once we're in production systems, versus what we actually see in reality about what most people are doing. And that's one of the reasons why everyone's burned out on that phrase, is because it's like we're trying to find that balance. So what do you guys, just to kind of reframe that question, what's that meaningful involvement word? in production versus what organizations are actually doing today?
Yeah, I love this question, Mike, because it's a trap question. And those are always fun to engage with. Because, right, human in the loop, I think, so often means to a lot of companies that we placed an already tired and overburdened person right into the blast radius of yet another thing that they have to deal with. Because what organizations, I think, without the AI literacy to kind of, call back to what Peter was just saying, without that AI literacy, without AI training to kind of understand how this works, they just sort of wind up falling back on human in the loop as a rubber stamp, right? Like it's an automated pull review process being done by a meat suit. And that does no one any good because like true meaningful human involvement has to keep humans in a position of accountability, but also like what your operating model shifts to align what decision-making authority falls on the humans, which ones fall on your models or your agents. What is the escalation path for engaging humans, whether that's in an ongoing operations support model, a development model, an engineering capacity. So like just putting a person as the code review, like we can have toasters do that. We don't need people if you're just going to rubber stamp it. So
Yeah, that's right. I'm just going to jump in because I do want to hear from the rest of it, but that's one of the things is that I see so much of folks just kind of putting humans in the loop in the worst way possible to exhaustion, to where eventually you're going to start auto approving everything or you're going to auto deny everything and we lose all of the potential.
It's entirely theater, I guess is how I would categorize it.
Yeah.
Well, Peter,
I would just say you got to define the objectives of why human loop is going to be enabled in the first place. Is it related to high risk decisions, handling exceptions, or is it just about continual improvement and ongoing training? I don't think we should be treating it as a quality control checkpoint. We need to be treating it as more of an accountability mechanism, especially as we move into more of an autonomous space for developing AI agents that are going to have less human in the loop elements. That way we can prevent the burnout that could be caused by haphazardly implementing human in the loop in the way that we are currently.
Yep. And just briefly, Vlad, I did see your hand up. I do want to give you an opportunity to throw a question out there, but because of my mishandling of time here, I just got to keep us going. Mohammed, really briefly, did you want to jump in on that, or do you want to hit that next question that we're coming up with?
Real quick, is humans should be the orchestrators, not like the just orchestrate using it as a tool. That's it.
Mike, if I could share one last thing too, because this is kind of contrarian to what we're talking about, and I'm going to share this link. But Adversa AI just discovered that malicious actors can trick AI coding agents with remote code executions by manipulating symlinks during file operations. This tricks the agent's human-in-the-loop safety prompt into displaying a safe file path while executing dangerous actions in the background. So these are ways the human-in-the-link BS is already being exposed. Y'all can take a look at the link I just posted in the chat, but this is the way this stuff is being circumvented.
No, that's very good. I love it. I want to talk so much about all of this with you guys, but I'm going to jump into something that is really big on my heart. I know it's on Ian's and I know it's on Mohammed's and Peter. We've talked about this as well. And we touched on it earlier. So, junior developers coming into this, they just graduated college. They put a lot of money. They probably have a huge student loan. And now they're seeing this entire shift in the. So, as organizations, leaders, or companies, like what should they be thinking about the future role of these junior developers and early career talent or people switching over to it in an AI first world? Are we at risk of losing an entire generation of builders, or is there an opportunity to shape something better? And you guys know I'm the eternal optimist, but I would love to hear from this group about that.
Both. Mike, I would say is kind of my response. I think that there is a very real risk that we have this sort of knee-jerk direction that the industry is being pulled in. GitLab's CEO had a blog post on May 11th where, and I got to paraphrase him a little bit, so apologies to Bill, but basically said like, well, we think the future of work is senior engineers managing AI. Like, well, that's great, but with all due respect, like, what happens when your senior engineers retire?
Yep.
Like, you are killing your pipeline, right? Like, to kind of use a farming analogy, right? Like, we're looking here at the table set with the seed corn, and then in 5 years, someone will commission a McKinsey study about why is there no corn? Because we've
spot on.
decided to cannibalize our guild pipeline, this apprenticeship path that used to exist, very short-sightedly, right? Like this hollowing out of the organization in chasing this short-term initiative without that vision towards the future.
Yeah, and
you know, and
that's
this
so
kind of goes
spot on.
into
No,
go ahead.
continue, and I'm just
Oh,
saying
I
it's so
was saying,
spot
like
on.
this kind of goes
Right.
into like some of the future conversation here in this chat as well. But right, like that, we have to be careful about how we continue to augment staff, kind of like you know, the other panelists were saying. AI as augmenting staff, AI as an exoskeleton, if you will, for your engineering staff who exists today, not AI as a replacement for staff, frankly, at any level.
Yeah. And I would just challenge everybody here, since there are so many leaders, that I really take it upon ourselves to help shape these folks, you know, in these organizations, opinions on that, and to get developers to be able to use those exoskeletons, those junior folks, rather than thinking that they don't have a place, getting these, help educate them and bring them up at maybe a more rapid pace than we had to learn firsthand. But to always have that senior person around, or they retire, to actually be able to help these folks hand on. Okay, Peter or one of you want to jump?
Yeah, I think I would echo what Ian just said, which is about augmentation and empowering junior developers to use these tools, leverage them to increase their opportunities. AI, while it can learn and be very good at data inference, I'd say that the junior levels still have the ability to do systems level thinking. They bring debugging skills to the table, understand architectural fundamentals. It's not to say that AI can't do these things as well, but those are the skills that humans have that are better suited for the meat bag, so to speak, than just a machine. And then I would also say that one of the things I've done a lot is I mentor a lot of junior engineers on a platform called Upnotch. And so that is a way to give back to these engineers that are also sort of dealing with this fallout of how do I improve my game? How do I stay relevant? And then just try to be a senior level buddy to them so that they can continue to not get down on themselves because of how shitty the job market is.
Yep, amen. We are at the 2-minute warning. However, I want to encourage anybody that can stick around to stick around, because there's so much here. Mohammed, did you want to jump in on that one before we move over to the next ones?
No, just real quick, Matt. That's one of the things that keeps eating at me. It's like this is an issue companies have not even started to think about. And when you talk about long-term risk, this is going to be a like I bet you guys in the next 5 to 10 we're going to be hearing about this as a huge issue, that their workforce is just not there.
100%.
Yeah. You know what? And that actually is a segue. I'm going to just go ahead and jump to what was going to be our last question, because I think it's the most salient and ties all of this together. A lot of the other things we're just kind of getting deeper. So to all three of you, I'd like to hear from you on this, and then I will try to open it up for questions, even if it's over time. So y'all are in a position to influence other leaders, companies, organizations. What's the advice that you're going to give other technical leaders out there about where they should be investing their time, their attention over the next 12 to 18 months? And I think that time frame is really important, especially with how fast things are accelerating. So I'm going to ask each of you to go through it, and I'm going to call you in order. Ian, you first.
Yeah. So I would like very quickly reiterate basically everything that we've already gone over. Invest in AI literacy. Invest in both understanding and redesigning your workflows. Invest in governance and invest in talent development. I know it seems antithetical. Like in that order, probably. Do not start with headcount reduction. Like start by finding out where your organization is wasting human judgment, human brain cycles on machine shaped work.
Yep.
And treat AI as a new member of the team, not a reason to hollow the team out, because that is the way that you can most usefully augment organizations in the general case.
Completely agree. Mohammed, your advice.
Stick to the basics. Everything, like if you're in a finance IT role, what's the cost? What am I going to get out as a return? Do that with AI. The same with, if you're bringing a new capability, what's the requirement? What's the expected outcome? Does this tool fit? Just sticking to the basics will keep people hopefully in check. Jumping onto the hype train is not like it's not going to get you anywhere.
It just blows up in your face. Peter, let's hear from you on this one.
Every engagement we do, we start with the business case. So we draft business cases that are about 3 or 4 pages long. It goes at length talking about the problem statement, the strategic alignment, the tools to be used. All of those things need to be thought about as a forefront effort, and understand what is it that we're looking to automate or augment. Everybody in this group or in businesses have mundane, repetitive processes that can be leveraged with AI. That's where I would start. And then don't chase models or don't chase tools. Chase the business outcomes that you're looking to achieve.
Yep, I completely agree. One thing I just had to say while we were talking about don't start with staff reduction. I can't, speak for y'all, but for me, dealing with some of those major organizations that did start with staff reduction has permanently influenced my opinion of that organization and how I'll do business with them in the future. So I just had to say that because I'm going to have impact on a lot of organizations. And when you started off that way, sorry, just don't like it. So, hey, I'm glad people stick around. If you can stick around longer, please do, because I did want to hear from Vlad for a couple reasons. One, he is representing the sponsor. He did have some questions out there. And I think he also has a few things that he's going to say about this topic because he's pretty passionate about all of it. So, Vlad, if you are still able to, would you mind jumping on and firing away with some of your questions, or even just some commentary about this talk overall and what your opinions are?
Yeah, I don't have any questions. I actually had an opinion. Yeah, as I mentioned, AI won't replace developers, but developers with AI skills will replace developers with non-AI skills. And for us, let's say we always have a human-centric approach. So, and in my opinion, that should always be the case. You should never allow anything to go into production without anyone seeing, without a human seeing what's there. And for all, let's say, high critical and blockers issues, you should always have a human deep diving into that part. Because we all know that AI loses context. We all know that sometimes things like that happen, but a person will always understand the context, and then they say, okay, maybe we have to refactor this, so we have 2 separate agents for those 2 things or whatnot. And basically, we haven't done a project in which we'll say like, it's 100% AI. We've done things which we say it's 80% AI. And for sure, and we have projects in which the customers are kind of reluctant because they are in the fintech industry and they don't want to lose their knowledge. But even with that, it's a kind of slow process to start with POCs, so they understand that, okay, you can have your data and still on your environments, not across internet, so you should be safe. But in the end, I would say that, let's say a rule of thumb is like you should treat the AI as a team member or a buddy, sort of, or team members or buddies. I wouldn't treat the AI higher than a mid-level developer, so that's something which, yeah.
I just got to give some commentary as being the MC here and a big part of the organizer here and having a really deep relationship with DevNest is like one of the things that I am coming away from this meetup that we had today that gives my heart so much more encouragement and optimism about this future that we find ourselves in, this brave new world that we find ourselves in, if you will, is that here we are. We just gathered some really highly intelligent and experienced leaders. And I think that we're all saying the same, that the humans are super important and valuable to where we should be using these tools to augment those humans, but not to overburden. And that's something that Ian really touched on. And it's what I see organizations doing is like, hey, I want to take my top, 2% of developers and give them power and all this responsibility, and also be the one that has to do all the pull requests and all this other stuff. And it's just so dumb, for lack of a better word. I'm just going to say it's so dumb. But what I'm encouraged about is that everybody here has a lot of influence on these organizations. So the challenge to everyone here is let's take this further. Let's have a meaningful impact on the organizations. Do it with a sense of honor and gratitude that we are able to influence this. I'm immensely grateful who's been able to join here today, for our panelists, for representing DevNest. I just kind of wrap it up by keep a lookout on your email, or if you got bugged by me with text messages, then by your text messages. I'm going to be sending out some materials. I'm going to give everyone here the ability to connect. And while we always that's actually able to jump onto a call in the middle of a work day on the end of the week, we have a ton of people that review this information afterwards and find a lot of value. So one of those things to keep an eye out for is how we do a follow-up on this topic, and that will be distinct from our next meetup that we're going to be doing. So 2 different trains of thought there. The other thing I'm going to ask everybody to do is keep an eye out on LinkedIn. There's going to be some more detailed announcements from DevNest on how they are specifically taking this advice that we all gave each other and sort of us as being the next level, and actually putting that into practice and helping things become human-centric, keeping the wisdom of humans truly in the loop in the areas that are important most, and doing it in a way that delivers high-quality projects, taking good ideas and making them productive and putting them into production, and saying no and saying that that's a bad idea when you need to say it. And I'm sorry if I hope this doesn't come off too brass, but Eastern Europeans are extremely good at telling people that that might be something you want to rethink. And so that's one of the things that I love about working with them, is I can get into a meeting with them and they'll tell me, hey, Mike, that sounds great, but it also sounds pretty stupid. Can you restate that and make that a little bit more clear? And that's also something that I love about working with Mohammed. And it's something that Ian has always done, although he does it so much better in the sense of just making me feel good in that process.